Hey Ada, it's Michelle Labus, and at the council meeting on March 17th, you guys talked a lot about data centers, and so kind of wanted to make this a separate video just so that we could focus on it. Jane Napier, your solicitor, brought up the idea of maybe doing a moratorium. I mean, there was a lot of discussion throughout this whole thing, and it was a little hard to tell where everybody was at. There was definitely a lot of, we really don't want data centers, there's a lot of risk involved. And then there was a little bit of, should we look at it seriously as far as a revenue stream, the, infrastructure that they could provide type of thing. So it was really back and forth. I think what they settled on was at the next meeting. So next meeting, if you guys want to come and voice your opinions about data centers, that would probably be a good time. But they are looking at doing a moratorium. So Jane is going to bring a sample of language that they can vote on to say, hey, just for 12 months, we're going to not decide on anything data center wise and just see how it goes. There's not a ton of capacity for utilities. You would have to change zoning if it was inside of the Ada city limits. Now there does sound like there may be some land by your water treatment plant, because that's where they like to be, is right there where that fresh water is going to be. There's some concern about putting any buildings on your wellhead protection plan, so they have to kind of see what the details are on that, so that when where your well is centered, that you're not building a building on it and moving all the water away from your underground aquifers. And so there is that set out there, which could be prohibitive. They're looking at, the land is really cheap here, and so what you might get, you hear that they're paying $100,000 to $200,000 per acre for these facilities. Is it worth that kind of money to have the data center? Maybe it's just a small one, or they always tell you that though, oh, it's small, it's not going to use a lot of water, it's not very noisy, and then once it gets in, they go, oh, sorry, we changed our plans, and it is loud and it does use a lot of water, and it doesn't work out the way that they say it's going to work out, which is kind of what we've seen with the solar and the wind. Just in the fact that, the solar panels do break and they do cause destruction. And so, you can't always listen to the sales pitch. But honestly, council had such a good discussion kind of all over the board. They talked about, Amanda's going to look at getting somebody to come in to talk about, maybe the pros and cons of data centers. One council member knows people in Kentucky that they live by a data center, and it's just terrible. I mean, I've heard lots of testimony about it being terrible, and so you always have those. It may be harder on the other side because you're probably going to get a salesman type presentation on the benefits of it. But here's the thing, right? Here's where the problem is. Data centers are not coming to the village councils first. They're going to your economic development boards, they're going to your CIC boards, and they're talking to them, and they're getting the zoning, and they're getting all those things in place. And then the village council is the last place that they're going to go. And so they come in and they say, hey, we've spent the last 6 months working on this data center, and all the zoning and everything's done, and we're going to give you $500,000 plus a pilot to allow us to come in. And now the pressure's on, because if the village says no, now you've made all these people mad that you're not going along with their plan. And so it's always better to be out front with it. Now, if you remember, the Hardin County Chamber said that they are not incentivizing data centers, but there are data centers that are here that are talking about it. So that is something to be cautious about. So we need to be on the ball and letting people know that we're not in favor of it, or maybe you are in favor of it. But there's definitely a lot of risks involved that we don't necessarily yet know about. So they had great discussions about pollution, water pollution, and the longevity of the data centers. Are they going to last very long, right? Especially if you have a pilot. We have 30-year pilots with the solar panels, and we have no idea if they're going to last 30 years. And if they just decommission the solar panels, then that pilot's completely gone. It's can be gone tomorrow. Well, in 1 year, right? They can just stop it and then they decommission in a year and it's over. So we talked about that. They talked about the difference between a small acreage data center with high-paying jobs, a few high-paying jobs, versus a larger manufacturing facility with lower paying jobs, but maybe 100 people, right? So, economically, you're looking at these things a little bit different. Other than that, the city did think that if a data center comes in and wants to build, that they don't have to let them use their water. And they're not quite sure if they can drill a well. Like if they drill a well and come up with technology, then would they be taking water from the village? I don't know. So a lot of questions. Your council did a great job of voicing their opinions and concerns. And so again, I just encourage you guys to go out and make sure you're letting council know how you feel, letting your economic development leaders know, so that they can act in the best interest of the community. But data centers are here. It's a real threat. We have plenty of green energy. I don't think we need any more, but let me know what you think. All right, talk to you later.